Turns out that nobody could hear anything the whole entire intro because that's just what happens when you rush. But that's okay. You've all heard the intro before. I was going to say was, of all the days that they could have played like the world's fastest baseball game, today was not the day that I needed them to do that. I kept looking down and it's just kind of like, man, we're in the third, fourth, fifth inning. But that's here nor there. That's what happens when you can't score. Because that's just what happens when you rush. I think you're on Twitter. You're looking at yep. I only know because I did it to me like the first 2 or 3 times. Anyway, Nick, another losing edition of Chatterbox Reds, man. It's a shame. It's really a shame because they've thrown the ball so well over this stretch, and here we sit. So I'm sure we'll get into the box score recap. Anything to add before we get to that?
No, not really. Just a frustrating game. Yeah, I don't know what to say at this point.
Yeah, let's do the box score recap. We'll have some fun. We'll talk about it, and we'll see where we go from there.
Yeah, not a whole lot in this one. Andrew Abbott gave up a home run to Christian Walker in the bottom of the second. Other than that, Abbott was fantastic. Went 7 innings, 4 hits. Just allowed that 1 run, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. I think he had 11 ground ball outs in this one. But the Reds, they were pretty well dominated by Brandon Pfaadt once again. The only offense was Santiago Espinal hitting a home run in the 5th inning, tying the game. Game was tied going into the 8th. Unfortunately, Fernando Cruz, he gave up a double to Gurriel Jr., ball that maybe Jake Fraley could have made a play on. And that would end up being your final 2-1. Reds now 1-10 in 1-run games. Reds fall to 18-25 on the season.
All right, we got the deep drive of the day, sponsored by DSC. Santiago Espinal, he homered. That would be the lone run, the only run the Reds would score all day long. It was a deep fly ball to left center field, tied the game at 1 apiece. 99.7 off the bat, 390 feet, 34-degree launch angle, which gave you, if you like all that math, that gives you a win probability at the time of 44.9, but as we all found out, it ended up being 0. DSC, they are a leader in renewable commodities for biofuel production, specializing in used cooking oil, collection, aggregation, and sales. Visit www.deepsouthcommodities.com for more information. Well, you just need something to go your way. You just need some momentum. You need to build on something at some point, and it just I don't know if it's in the cards or I don't know if it's just right around the corner, but it's certainly just demoralizing because it's the 1-run affair more than anything. I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't feel better if they just got their tails kicked in every day, but that's not happening all that often. It's like it's a play here, it's a play there, and here we go again. We find ourselves looking up because the hole gets deeper and deeper. And I don't know how you feel, Nick, but at this point, the Reds' offense, it just feels like this is who they are more than a, and maybe it's a slump, but it feels like this is closer and closer to becoming just who they are. They're inconsistent, and they're really not all that great of a hitting lineup as it is. So I don't know if you kind of want to paint a picture. To be fair to the Reds offense and to the pitching, I did not see a ton of. I listened to the Tommy for quite a good bit of this. I picked it up in like the 7th inning on, and I just don't know what to make of much of the approach, the at bats. If you're going to kind of fill me in on what you felt like that looked like today, that'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, it's just hard to tell because the Reds offense has been so bad for so long. It felt like it was more about Brandon Pfaadt today, but I'm not going to blame anyone who doesn't want to use that as a reason why they lost. He looked really good. I mean, I thought he pitched incredibly well, and obviously the Reds didn't have their A, B, C, or D lineup out there. My guess with Ellie De La Cruz, I had him on the rundown later. My guess is last night he came into the dugout and David Bell said, I got to give this guy a day off. Because I don't think that he would have planned it against a right-handed pitcher. I think he probably would have done it earlier in the series against a left-handed pitcher. But Ellie probably was fine and seemed fine. But I'm guessing last night, David, there was something that made him say, I have to give this guy a day off. And that's why they did it today. And then India can't play with a migraine. And I mean, you have a lineup that is just not very good. And of course, Santiago Espinal is the only one that can hit the ball. I mean, the Reds did have a couple pretty good swings against the relievers. They had 4 hard hit balls in the 2 innings against Ryan Thompson and Paul Sewald, kind of for nothing. But Brandon Pfaadt was incredible. Reds offense wasn't good. And that's where you end up with a 2-1 loss.
I get that people are tired of the offense. We're all tired of it. I don't know really what else there is to say other than that there's not enough good quality hitters in this lineup to make it all add up. You look through, like you had just mentioned, obviously the box score recap, but you look through the lineup, your 2, 3, 4 hitters, right? Friedl, Ford, and Steer, and even for that matter, why not just add Candelario? I mean, those are that's the core of your lineup. And you're what, 1 for 16? That's just not going to get it done. That's not going to get it done. And that's a 1 for 16, and that's nobody. It's not getting on base. It'd be one thing if these guys could walk every so often. I got 2 walks today. So, and one of them was obviously Maley, who had come in, but I don't know, man.
In fairness to Mike Ford, he did have 3 hard hit balls. He smoked 1 in the 9th
inning.
He had some pretty good swings. Jake Fraley looked really bad today. There's not really a whole lot of sugarcoating Fraley. I mean, Fraley's been good at times, but man, he's also had some really bad at-bats also at times. I know he's battled sickness. I know he had bronchitis. I know they talked about on the broadcast. The guy was playing with an inhaler in the dugout, and I don't give him credit for all that, but he had 2 hits yesterday, had 3 hits on the 11th. So he's had a couple good games, but he's also had games where he also looks lost at times. It's been a really weird season for Fraley. He only has 1 home run right now and over 100 at bats. Like, I would never expect that with Jake Fraley. I feel like he's a guy that should have some more power, and I'm sure that the illness is probably a big contributor to why that power hasn't showed up yet. But he's the guy that you really need to be that big bat against right-handed pitching right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know that Sean's been on the trail right now about the lineup, and I know how you feel mostly about the lineup, but I mean, not that it mattered today. It's not like Candelario did a lot, but I guess a guy like Candelario is seeing the ball a little bit better. Mike Ford came off the streets for that matter. And to be fair, when I say come off the streets, he was doing all right in Louisville, as we all know. We were calling for him to come up, but I don't know. I don't think it matters, guys. Listen, I argued with Nick. I debated with Nick. I kind of made a big deal about lineups matter. I think they do matter, but I don't think this matters. I'm looking at this lineup, and I'm like, it's I'm going to keep it a kid show, but you know what they say about, chicken X, like, it is what it is. That's what we got here. It's just not good. I mean, I had to say, this team's not got enough good players on it. It's as simple as that. We can leave. I genuinely would just leave it at that, because I think that's the truth. And we can sit here and, gesture and talk about David Bell, and we could discuss Nick Kroll and hate me for saying it. I know some of you are. This isn't an excuse. I'm not saying this is an excuse. But I am saying it's a reality that they've been backed into this corner where their depth between what they have in Dayton and their depth between what they have that just came up last year. If you want to get upset, you could get upset about that, because there's no real consistent crop of guys that are coming up behind them. But let's also face the facts that, is it realistic to have big league ready players every single year coming up through your farm system? I don't know if it is. I mean, at some point you need some consistency in regards to some guys staying healthy, and maybe that's the bigger question mark. I know that we'll probably talk about it a little bit later, but until we have some guys that are here on a day in, day out basis over the course of a full season, it's going to be hard to be consistently good. So, I don't. Nobody has an answer for this Reds offense, and the answer is that the players that they have to play better. And I think that genuinely they're just they're not good enough to play better. Simple as that. So I don't know if you have anything to add to that before we get into Andrew Abbott.
If it was up to me, I would move Jamer Candelario up in the lineup since that's such a huge topic. But do you really think that's going to change anything? Like, Evan, shout out to Evan. He made a great point in the chat. If you can pinpoint one guy in the lineup, you're like, if that guy moves up, that would change something. That's not that's not a good solution. That means the offense is just not performing.
Yeah, I mean, like, guys, we have Will Benson, who again, I know we give him credit because he's had to face left-handers, this, that, and the other, but he's batting leadoff for our baseball team right now. He's hitting $190. Jake Fraley, shout out to him, but he's probably he is hitting 300 with a 730 OPS, so good for him. Got Mike Ford hitting in the 3-hole. He's hitting $170. You got Steer hitting 240. You got Candelario hitting 230, and then from there you got guys like Capel batting. And I get it, you can't really use statistics when the guys only have 10 at bats, but let's just face the facts, man. Like, can they play better or not? Can they play over their head or not? We're gonna find out over the next week and a half. So it is what it is. Like, they're not dead yet, but they're gonna have to play well over the next 10 days, or else. You can call it whatever you want. I mean, we're going to be here every single day. We're going to talk about the Reds. We're going to talk about things that are obviously seem important, but we're not going to sit here and lie to everyone in their face and tell you that this is just a fluke. Like we're not idiots. It is what it is, and I hate to say this, but if you don't have Matt McClain and you don't have Noelvi Marte and you don't have TJ Friedl and you for lack of a better term. Lodolo is what it is. We thank God Brandon Williams might be coming back to kind of fill that in. But my point is, if like CES is out, this isn't. Like, let's use another sport for just a quick example. And maybe people will say this isn't the same. That's what they, like. Okay, if Joe Burrow goes down, Jamar Chase goes down, and I don't know, Logan Wilson goes down, and Hendrickson goes down, like. Are we gonna is the expectation for the Bengals to be great? No, but you'd like to think that they're going to be somewhat competitive, and they're being competitive. They just can't find a way to win, and that's where we're at right now. So, like, this team's competitive. They've been in games. They can't get the big hit, and they can't find a way to win. And I know that ultimately, maybe you want to point fingers at somebody for that, and I understand. And trust me, no one's sitting here. To be the last thing I'm going to say about all this. No one's sitting here saying that it's perfectly fine and like, oh, it's no big deal. If there's a considerable gripe for this team, I think the considerable gripe is that unfortunately they have a huge hole from a position player standpoint that's just not quite big league ready yet. That can just start to fill these spots in, and maybe we find out they do, and at that point we can get really pissed off. If Blake Dunn ends up being a great player, I'm trying to think of other guys. I mean, Jacob Hurtubise is already here. Mike Ford's already here. How many more of these guys do we think are actually going to genuinely help us from I don't know, is Levon Soto supposed to come up? But I digress. I'm going to get ourselves into weeds that we don't need to go down. But I guess if you're reasonable right now, I think that we all can understand exactly why this is happening.
Yeah. And I mean, look, the Reds offense has been really bad, and it's felt dire and brutal. But if you do take a step back, I mean, you look at the last 8 games, they're 2-8. Lost a 1-run game to the Diamondbacks, lost a 1-run game to the Diamondbacks. They lost 2 of 3 to San Francisco, and we all know that Sunday game, I mean, they had a 3-0 lead. They gave up a 3-run home run that was just a brutal home run. I mean, you have the blown save by Alexis Diaz on Monday, and then today you lose another 1-run game. So, well, yeah, I mean, it feels dire. They're also the margin between winning and losing has been, very
not a ton
thin. So I don't
guess
know.
like let's do this.
I don't want to make a big deal about the last 10 games, but at the same time, I mean, like they have dug themselves such a big hole now that it's almost getting to a point where it's going to become near impossible to get out of. So it's not like the games themselves are like they're that far off, but the reality is starting to set in that it is what it is.
I guess my thing is like I don't want to go down a rabbit hole here off the beaten path too much, and I know that like I'm looking at Jim in the chat. Jim's upset, like and Jim, like I feel for Jim. Like I understand where Jim's sentiments come from. Like at some point when you've gone 20 years, that's a long time without winning a playoff series. But my question is ultimately like, and this is where, you start to get into the semantics and the fundamentals of all this is like, who do we blame for the 20 years? Because I mean, if we want to blame Nick Krall, how much of that is actually Nick Krall versus somebody else's problem? Like, I mean, they didn't create this whole entire mess. And I do understand the ownership thing. Okay. I'm not going to defend the owners, but like, is that going to change? And someone's going to be like, oh, well, you can stop spending money. Like, okay, like, come on, man. Let's have reasonable discussion here. Let's be honest. Just because Trace decides he's not going to go to games ever again, is that going to change anything? I just don't think that, again, I guess if it's a well-coordinated effort and perfectly everybody does it, okay. But I'm just going to move past that point. My main thing is like, you can't mortgage the future and try to be like, oh, let's go trade a bunch of guys to try to save a season that, quite honestly, we don't even know if we can save. And then on top of that, realistically speaking, I don't even know if they have a theoretical problem if guys can stay healthy. Now, I get it. That's part of the game. But again, to be clear, it would be much different if all of these guys were healthy and this is the results we were getting. But we all damn well know when you look up and down this process or roster and not just the process, I guess. But my point is like we know that Mike Ford's not a part of this team and wasn't supposed to be. We know Connor Capel is not supposed to be part of this team. We know Santiago Espinal is not supposed to be a big role in this team. Jacob Hurtubise is playing now. Like half this lineup are guys that are just fill-ins. They're not future pieces. So what are we going out and trading for? Are we trading for rentals? Like we all can agree that it doesn't make sense. And I guess I'll use the other analogy. It feels like sometimes you use other sports analogies. Like you're not going to go out and trade your first round pick or your first and second round pick in the NFL just because your quarterback goes down for the season and you're going to try to go find a serviceable backup quarterback somewhere else. You realize that, hey, it is what it is. Sometimes you got to punt. And right now, the Reds, I'm not saying they should punt, but I am saying that you just pray that you can get through this stretch of baseball and hopefully you find yourself at the All-Star break, maybe 5, 6, 7 games out of it, and you got your full crew back and you get hot. But if you don't, at least you know going into the next season, all of the guys that you thought were going to be ready. My point is, you want to go trade Rhett Lauder? Is that what we want to do? Nobody in their right mind is going to start to actually trade guys to the Reds for big league talent without getting something in return. It's going to require you to trade Rhett Lauder, trade Cam Collier, trade. I don't know if anyone wants Connor Phillips anymore, to be frank, but it's my point is valid. Chase Petty, you're going to have to trade someone like that to get someone even somewhat notable to maybe help you this season. And I guess my point at the end of the day, we all know that's ridiculous. At least I think we do. And if I'm wrong for saying that, I'm sorry. We have differing opinions. And you can fan and love and root for this team however you want. I'm not saying that that's the way in which you have to believe. I am saying that's the way that I believe. And I think that should frame a reference on the way in which we can just sit here and every single day, I'm not going to get sideways about them trading for somebody, Nick. I'll leave it at that. I'm done ranting, and I don't know what it is. Preaching is probably not the right word, but that's how I feel.
Yeah, I don't have a lot more on that. Let's talk about the two guys that did perform well today.
We got a short list.
Well, yeah, we got two. Andrew Abbott, look, shout out to him. He's having an incredible year. ERA now down to 3.06. He was the kind of pitcher that if you were on the opposing dugout, man, you would just get so frustrated having at bat after at bat against him, just hitting the ball straight into the ground. He's having an incredible season. I've just been so impressed with him. 7 innings today, went deep into the game. I know I mentioned the stat last night. So Hunter Green has 3 of those starts. Andrew Abbott has 2. Who was the other one? Nick Lodolo had 1, and no one else has any. So Andrew Abbott also being a guy that's able to go deep into the game, preserve the bullpen. And sure, it was a loss, and maybe it seems meaningless, and in some ways it is. But you're going into LA, and you're going to be starting Nick Martinez. It's good to have some arms fresh. So it was big that the Reds only had to use 1 arm today, and that'll give them a chance at least in Los Angeles.
That's a good way. That's a positive outlook, certainly, on will Andrew Abbott's performance today spill into another game that we ultimately won't be able to see, and it'll make the difference between them winning and losing? That's a real thing. But it's not quantifiable. It's not like something you could point to and say, look, that's exactly how it went. This is 100% Andrew Abbott's win 2 days from now. But it's possible. I think the bigger story is just the fact that they continue to provide quality starts, and this pitching staff that we were excited about has lived up to expectations. They've done everything that they possibly could have done to give this team more than a fair chance to win on a nightly basis, and that's what you hope. And Andrew Abbott, let's face it as well, wasn't 100% it wasn't 100% guarantee that we were going to get this Andrew Abbott. There towards the end of spring training, I don't think nobody was 100% confident that this guy was going to be who he was last season, because he had some rough starts and he didn't finish last season on a very high note. So it is nice to see Andrew Abbott bounce back. I think that's the bigger story. And, if it turns out that maybe his extended outing today helps them against the Dodgers, and you're not wrong in saying that Martinez is probably a guy that will be a little more on a short leash per se. So they're going to need their bullpen. Maybe it'll help them out. So it's, like I said, I did not get to see a ton of the game, but I think that that's a fair point.
Not even Martinez just on a short leash. I think everyone is. You have a chance against the Dodgers to have a hard time making it through 3 innings. Any of the Reds starting pitchers, just with how incredibly deep that lineup is. So you want your bullpen to go in fresh, and the last 2 days actually. I mean, Hunter Green yesterday, Andrew Abbott today is at least going to give the bullpen a fighting chance this weekend.
100%. They're as fresh as they're as fresh as you could hope on a road trip like this. So
yeah.
All right, Espinal. I'm seeing in the chat people are pleased with his ability to play shortstop today, and then obviously he's the only reason that the Reds even have a run. So, I guess any thoughts on him? He's starting to play significantly better, it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's hopefully a league average hitter. I think he can get close to that or slightly below that, and that's fine for his role. He's playing great defense, made a great play today. This is the first time we've seen him play shortstop, so it's nice to know that he's a capable backup. Hopefully, hope to God we don't have to use him at shortstop, like maybe ever again, but it's nice to know that that's an option. He's played good at second base. He's played good at third base. He's been a solid player for this team. I think he's going to be probably a forgettable guy in a couple of years, but if somehow this season turns around, he could be a valuable member of this team that helps this team stay afloat. So shout out to Santiago Espinal, a guy that was really, really struggled, really got off to a brutal start after getting traded over here. Hopefully he's getting a little more comfortable, and hopefully he can be a decent contributor the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those. He's a fill-in piece. It is what it is. I don't get excited watching Espinal play, largely because I know inevitably it's a one and done situation if everything goes right. Similar to well, I'm just saying if everything goes right. I mean, when I say one and done, he's not going to get serviceable time. He's not playing meaningful baseball game. Like he's not playing a significant amount. Maybe if he's a bench guy, sure, but let's not act like Noelve Marte and Matt McClain and Ellie De La Cruz and whoever you want to put it first. CES would be ideal, but maybe it's not CES. Regardless, That's your infield if everything goes according to plan. All right, folks. If you are looking to download some tickets, if you're looking to get some tickets, you need to download the Game Time app. I will say I'm supposed to have in front of me. I'll probably get in trouble. You might have it in front of you, Nick. There's I got to get the actual script. Send over like the script that you have to read verbatim.
I have it.
Anybody that knows Trace doesn't do a very good job of sticking to scripts and reading it verbatim. So I'll just say this, and Nick's gonna provide the fine print here. Game Time is a legit app. It's a nice app. You should download it. Use the code CINCY, CINCY. Get $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Nick's going to read that in a minute. But give it a shot. Nick, take it away. What do you got?
The Game Time app is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app, Trace, they actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. Killer last-minute deals, all-in pricing, views from your seat, and the lowest price guaranteed. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. They have all-in pricing. You can toggle this feature. It shows you the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. The lowest price guaranteed, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code CINCY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create an account and redeem the code CINCY, CINCY, for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
And as always, 988 is right there on the screen if you need it. All right. Well, I was giving you enough time to cut that out. The reason I was going to say that is because you said something that I think needs an asterisk. I'm not going to say it right now, but I want you to remind me later.
Okay.
You didn't do anything wrong. You read the script, but there's something in there I got a problem with. Nick Lodolo. I'll tell you what. Before we do Nick Lodolo, let's get the super out of the way. Leave it at the table. Said Nick Lodolo and Zell or Nick Senzolo. You pick. You seriously can't make this something up. Got to breathe through. 4 in LA next, and it ain't the Angels. Yeah. Listen, people are frustrated. I don't blame them. It's only 15 days. I'm just going to shut up. I'm going to get myself in a really... I just hope Nick Lodolo is a cautionary tale, and it's an opportunity to say, you know what? Hey, let's be very, very overly cautious. Let's make sure we got Brandon Williamson on his way up. He can take one of the starts, and we can reassess from there. I might have missed something, though. Your thoughts on Nick Lodolo?
Yeah, they said on the broadcast that Lodolo thinks he's only going to need the minimum time off, miss like 2 starts and come back. I'm going to take that with a grain of salt. I'm not going to be super optimistic about that, but the words sound nice, that's for sure. I recorded a little something with Elliot earlier that's up on Chatterbox, little Chatterbox reacts. And look, if Nick Lodolo would have been like the big injury this year, the Reds could not have used that as an excuse. Like, you had to be prepared that this was a possibility with Nick Lodolo. What Nick Lodolo has given you so far this year is great. It's a bonus. It should not have been factored into what you were expecting to get this year. So now the Matt McClain and Noelvi Marte and those kind of things, that's a whole different story. But this couldn't have been an excuse. And I don't think it has been an excuse. And thankfully, knock on wood, the Reds have been prepared to this point to at least survive without Nick Lodolo. But, you know, he's been incredible. So, again, if you have any chance to turn this around, you'd think that Nick Lodolo would be a big part of that. But you also never know. You know, last year they won 12 games in a row with a rotation that in 10 years, try to have people tell you what that rotation was, and people maybe get 1-2 games out of it.
Correct. You bring up an excellent point. I do think Lodolo's a guy in which you start the season off, you got to have a plan B on. It kind of like I use terrible analogies from time to time. I'll use another one for everybody. It feels like if you're heading on a road trip, right, and you don't check the oil or you don't take it somewhere, you're going on like a really long road trip. You don't see if there's, like I said, the appropriate oil. Then that's kind of on you. It feels like the Reds, though, their injuries, it feels like more of like you start the trip off and you're like 20 minutes in and your windshield like cracks. It's like, well, I don't really feel like you could have planned that. And having Marte and McLean go down, both of them go down within like, what was it, the span of, less than 20 days. It's pretty much impossible to plan for that. So they did their best. But Lodolo, I don't expect him to miss much time. I'm going to be optimistic here. I really do. It's funny that we said this stuff last night on the podcast, just in regards like, what do you do with Brandon Williamson? Oh no, and here we go again. We're like, well, you just got to wait for somebody. And I had said that Andrew Abbott, right? He would go on a phantom IL stint, and it turns out maybe it's Nick Lodolo. And I don't want to say it's phantom. But I do think that there's some reasonable discussion around the idea that they're going to give these guys rest if they feel like there's somebody else that can kind of throw with them if they don't feel great. So there's that.
They did say Lodolo felt this before his last start, was able to pitch through it, and then I think they said when he did his tossing in between days, that's when it really kind of aggravated enough to where he needed to take a couple starts off, was kind of the timeline on that.
Yeah. Fair. All right. You already mentioned it a little bit with Ellie. Got the day off today. Bell, obviously, it's a good time to give guys days off, right? On getaway days where you got a day game and then you obviously got to travel afterwards. If you got a guy that you feel like needs some rest, today's the day to give him the rest. So that's all this was. And hopefully, it's just a shame that just this Reds team. And I'm not here to. People are going to piss. It always feels like the Reds are on the bad end of some small bad luck. And bad luck's not a right term. Like I don't know what the term is, Nick. But it's like, what do you call it when your best player sits and then you end up losing 2-1 instead of either winning 6-1 or losing 6-1? It's like, of all the days for Ellie to sit, I don't know. This is one day that maybe he could have made the actual difference in the game, but you got to give him a day off at some point. So here we are.
Well, what do you think about this? I know I saw some people upset about this. What do you think about them giving Ellie De La Cruz the day off and then having him pinch hit late in the game and then stay in the game? Do you think like that's contradictory? Do you think that still is like a sort of a day off? How do you view
I view it as a day off when you're that young. Yeah, I view it as a day off. I think if you're like 40, maybe you shut it down and you're like, you know what, I don't really want to get warmed up for the day or get loose, and you tell Ellie to go down to the tunnel and stretch and kind of get himself ready, and he could probably be ready in about 10 minutes. I look at it as a day off personally, but I understand where people's logic comes from with that. And I don't ask me where the line in the sand between being a young player and being an old player when that's a day off and not a day off. I don't know the answer to that. but at 22 years old, yeah, I mean, I think you got the day off. Mentally, you relax. You're like, I'm not in the lineup. So be it. Game starts to progress. You got to play a couple innings of baseball and then you're out of there. I don't know. I don't make much of it.
I doubt Ellie worked up a sweat for one at bat and one inning of work.
No.
So yeah, I mean it's eight trips. You're not walking out onto the field and tossing in between innings. I mean there is definitely some of a day off. It does. I get it. Though. It does feel weird. Like you get a day off, but then you still play for an inning. I get that feels weird, but I do think, and just maybe more the reason I would be okay with that is I see a lot of other managers do that same thing. It's not like this is the first time I've seen a manager give a guy a day off and then bring him in late. And Dusty Baker would do that. Managers all across baseball do that. How about I don't know if you saw this, Jonathan India. I found it very weird. So he had a migraine that kept him out of the game, which, look, I'm not downplaying migraines. They can be absolutely brutal, and it's really hard to judge the severity of that. Why would you make the guy go? Why would the guy go sit in the dugout? Like, he had like glasses on to like help him, not see anything.
Right.
Why would you not just, like, if he has a migraine that bad, just let this poor guy go sit on the couch in a dark room, and then, hey, maybe we'll go in the 8th inning. Hey, Jonathan, think you could do, think you could come in and get in that bat? Like, why would he sit on the bench? Like, if he has a migraine, I don't understand that.
No, it's a good point. That's an idiotic thing to do. I don't really understand why. Maybe he was like, I don't know. Some guys are weird. I don't want to put this on India. I don't know who it is. Well, I'm just saying, like, India, exactly. And India could have been like,
hey, support the team by going to the dugout and resting, and maybe you can come in later. That was weird.
Yes, I feel like there's a small chance, and again, I'm not trying to crush anybody or say it's India's fault. My guess is India was like, I'm a leader on this team. I need to be in the dugout, and they're like, well, all right, well, you need to, and that was his decision. My guess is that it was his decision. If it wasn't his decision, whoever's decision it was, that's a mistake. I'll leave it at that. Like, if somebody, I don't know if it was David Bell, I don't know who it would have been, but if someone was like, hey, we don't really care, here's these glasses, we need you in the dugout, that's just being an idiot. That's genuinely just being a hard ass idiot. So I hope for the almost like the vibe of the culture of the clubhouse that it was Jonathan India who was like, no, I'm dead set on sitting in here. I don't want to be missing my guys, which again is kind of stupid. But if that's how he feels, then I guess you just let the guy run out there and put glasses on. I don't know.
I feel like I would have been like, no, go sit in the dugout. I applaud your effort. It's great that you want to be out here.
Right.
Go sit, no sound, nothing. Just relax yourself. And maybe we can use you later. Or if not, hopefully the migraine will go away and you feel better. Yeah,
I'm with you as well. That's a good point by you. Someone should have been, this is funny to say, but someone should have been a leader to the leader or whatever, or overruled the leader and been like, no, this is what's best for the team, is for you to go somewhere where you can actually fix your issue. In that way, if your issue does get fixed, there's a chance you could help us out. Sitting in this damn dugout with glasses on, the towel over your head, I mean, it's not... That's not just, this is just wasting our time, It's like, what are you doing out here? It's like the idiot that comes into work sometimes that's got like snot running out of their nose, they're hacking all over the place, and you're like, yeah, I mean, I'm glad you came into work, but you're not getting any work done, and you're also giving a chance for everyone else to get sick. So I kudos to you for being tough, but get the hell out of here. Hopefully nobody in the chat does that. If you do, you should think twice about going to work next time you're actually really sick. Yeah.
We would never at Chatterbox Sports.
No. We don't work at Chatterbox. There's that. That's not true at all. All right. Reds MILB, Nick. On a day like today at 6:20, good luck. I'm sure you're just going to kind of give a little... On the podcast, by the way, for those, I think I seen something. I talk a lot, I know. I seen somebody say today, you know what? They shouted out the podcast because it was a West Coast. They couldn't stay up to watch the YouTube, and I think they were probably pleasantly surprised. They were pleasantly surprised about the difference between this show and the podcast. You do an excellent job. My guess is that you could listen to a legitimate Reds MILB in full-fledged for the podcast. But for time being, this is the Reds MILB you get.
Yeah, so Louisville and Daytona were both rained out today. Both of those teams are going to play doubleheaders on Thursday. Dayton will play tonight at 7:05 p.m. Third-round pick Bryce Hubbard from 2022 will be starting. We did have one game go final. Chattanooga. Oh, I didn't put screwing up here. They wrong score. They lost 6-5. The stats are correct, though. So let's just...
Now you're going to fix it real time. Look at that.
I just don't want...
or just take it out. Yeah, that's fine.
Take it out. So they lost 6-5. Lookouts, they are 11-24 on the season. But Trace! Bubba Thompson homered.
Wow.
Bubba Thompson, 2 for 5. It was not Justice Thompson. I did double check. Our friend Reds Daily actually had a clip of it.
Couldn't even
Shout
put
out
it
to Bubba
on
Thompson. 2 for 5. Oh, yeah, I didn't get Bubba in there. Man, I'm slacking today.
That's okay. Austin Hendricks is more impressive to me.
3 times on base. How about that? Stole his 7th bag of the year. Tyler Callahan, he had another great day. He was 2 for 3 with a walk, stole his 13th base of the year. Callahan, he's hitting .341, got an on-base percentage of .462 in the month of May. So after a really brutal April, he's turning it around. Maybe one of the prospects down at Chattanooga that actually can make something of this year and hopefully be one guy down at that group that can actually progress. A former top 10 Reds prospect that just kind of fallen out of graces, but good to see him playing well. Hunter Parks, he struggled with walks a lot, so credit to him only walking one guy, but he got 5 hits and 4 runs, only lasted 2 innings. He's a little bit disappointing so far this year, 6.17 ERA through 7 starts. This is a guy that really does throw very hard. But yeah, that's your Reds MILB.
That it is. All right, we are back better than ever in LA, of all places. So just the old traditional who, what, when, where, and why. Nick?
Yeah, we don't have confirmed starters, or at least we didn't when the show started. So I'll just run through the possible starting pitchers for the entire series. Thursday, tomorrow, 10-10 start. Nick Martinez, probably for the Reds. Tyler Glasnow, probably for the Dodgers. The Reds have confirmed their starters for Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Dodgers have not. Friday's at 10-10 as well. Montes, possibly against James Paxton. Saturday, 9-10, Ashcraft against Walker Buehler. And then Sunday at 4:10, Hunter Green against Yamano. And I'm going to have to work on pronouncing that. You know who I mean. So that'll be on Sunday. The Dodgers, they are 29-15. They actually play tonight, 9:45 against the Giants. So hopefully by the time I record the podcast later tonight, we'll have some actual starters, and I'll give you a little bit more details on that Dodgers series in the podcast in the morning.
That's fair. More than fair. TBD versus TBD. What do you think about that? Although we got good expectations. It's not played at, I know people in the that are watching this show. It's not being played at Chase Field. And Nick is, at some point, listen, Nick, sometimes you just got a lot going on. Baseball games are getting played in the middle of a work day. It just doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. This is the last. We did talk about this. This is the last time they're on the West Coast, though. The West Coast time frame for the rest of the year. So we get through this little stretch of baseball. The good news is I think that from our lives, it will be in regards to a good time frame for the rest of the season. So shout out to us for that. But unfortunately, hopefully the Reds start winning some baseball games, so everybody will continue to have fun, and we can have good times in this chat.
Yeah, 10-10 Thursday, 10-10 Friday, 9-10 Saturday, and then the Reds do not have a game that starts 8:40. Will be the latest start the rest of the year when the Reds are in Colorado. I think it's only 2 days, and then there's not even another start other than that. That's later than 8:10. So got them all knocked out early. I did have a thought, Trace, just want to run by you to end this show.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see the Reds use Brent Suter as an opener for Nick Martinez, especially against the Dodgers. They have a lineup that's full of lefties. I feel like that would be a great way to, maybe you get a little bit of an advantage against the Dodgers team. Not an advantage, but a
I understand.
Whatever, against a really good Dodgers team. Nick Martinez, you put him in a role that he's been a lot better in. And remember, Nick Martinez, spring training, he threw 4 perfect innings against the Dodgers A lineup, struck out 6 in that game, including Freddie Freeman twice. So I don't know. Maybe he's got some magic.
Let's hope so. It reminds me of what we were begging for, and you started begging for it before I did with Luke Weaver. So, at some point, it'd be nice if the Reds would utilize the opener. And they started utilizing the opener last year. Derek Law comes to mind pretty quickly. He did a good job last year of being an opener. So we'll find out if the Reds decide to use an opener. Maybe that's part of the delay in the starting pitching, but starting pitching announcement, I should say. So we shall find out. There was a pronunciation that I was going to help you out with, Nick, but the chat, it's moving so fast that I just sometimes you just can't keep up. It's pronounced Yama-Laville. Hopefully that's it.
Okay. Well, hopefully we'll get it figured out by Sunday or by Saturday. By Saturday, we need it by Saturday.
We shall find out by then. We still can't figure out Montas either. Montas.
Montes.
Montes.
I think I've got it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
Right.
it finally just clicked.
Montes. Louisville.
And if it's not right, that's what I'm stuck with now. So it's beat into my head.
Montes. Louisville. Yamanoto. We'll figure it out. What we won't figure out is probably what the Reds can do. We won't figure that out because that's a tough ask. You're asking us, two people that sit here and grind through these games with you, on what exactly Nick Krall should do. I don't know. It is saying that there's going to be some ads running in 50 seconds. No, there won't. Watch that. All right, folks. Anything that you want to add, Nick, before we finish the rest of our days here on Earth on May 15th of 2024?
Well, it'd be great if the Reds somehow shocked us all and played well against the Dodgers. I'm begging baseball gods, give us one back.
We could use a couple back. Use a couple back. Let's just sweep the Dodgers. Let's just sweep the Dodgers. That's what it's gonna take. That's what it's gonna take. You know, feels like we're down by 8 on the 98, and we got 98 yards to go. We've just used every other sport in the world today for analogies, so why not use it at the end? We might be down 8 with 98 yards to go. But you know what? We're not dead yet. And if Yogi Berra taught you anything, he said one thing that's somewhat true, and that is it's not over till it's over. So shout out to Yogi for that. Take care. Go download the podcast tomorrow. Give it a rating. Give it a review. Tell somebody about the show. Do all the things you do on YouTube. Like, subscribe. We'll see you tomorrow. Better than ever. Go Reds. Take care of yourself. Enjoy your day. You thought we missed a super? I didn't know. I'm sorry. Sometimes you have to check last second. You guys, I'm just going to tell you, you guys, you start throwing these in late on me like that. You know, your boy here doesn't have a big brain, might not keep up. Leave it at the table. Says, do you guys have a secondary team that you follow? I always tell people you got to have a backup plan as a Reds fan. I'm in Braves country. So leave it at the table. You do whatever you wish, my man. You cheer for whoever you want. Me personally, I don't have a backup. It is what it is. The Reds are nothing. You know, where I'm at. Do I root for teams to beat other teams in the postseason? Yes. There's teams that I might like better, but I'm not actively rooting for them. No, I'm not. I'm not checking up on them. I don't do that. Nick?
I would root for the Guardians. I say that because I know that really irks some people. I think I said that once and someone lost their mind.
It's because you love your wife, yeah?
Yeah. Well, my wife supports me doing the show.
That's right.
162 times. So she loves the Guardians. She's from Cleveland. So I sure as hell am going to support the Guardians when they're not playing the Reds.
Yeah. I think it's a great answer. It's a great answer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish the outro from where it started. I'm not going to replay it. We're just going to, boom, redo it. Did you hear that? That was the end of it. So,
flawless.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.